At the time, I didn't care if it was like a time traveling cyborg Jason who fought T-Rexes. I'm like, I'm on board. But then reading how they grounded everything with the character and went, oh, he's human, and you can always, they're saying you can always go supernatural later on. So they wanted to really ground everything.
What's your favorite scary movie?
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end.
This is my boomstick!
Swallow this.
Hi, guys. Welcome again. Another episode of the Air on the Head Show. I am Lance Velchik. Of course, there is the Air himself, Mr. John Fallon. And we got a little special guest here today, Mr. Jason Voorhees himself, Derek Mears. Mr. Derek, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, I am doing well, my friend. Doing really well.
Pleasure.
Actually, I got to say, really, out the gate, what I always liked about, a lot of actors have played Jason. Some actors have brought on more to the character than just putting on a mask and standing there or running or walking really quick or teleporting or whatnot. And, Kane Hodder did it. He brought his own persona to it. I called it pissed off Jason, personally. He's just angry, heaving, get off my lawn. And in my useless opinion, you, Derek, also did your own thing on Jason and created a persona that goes beyond just a guy with a mask standing there looking intimidating. So
thank you very much for that. That mission accomplished. With any acting job is try to find that humanity and put your own little spin on it. And I'm happy that you enjoy it, my friend.
Well, before we dive into that, because now you just gave me a trigger that I'm going to start bombarding you with questions. We have a ritual here on the Air on the Head Show. Mr. Lance, what are you drinking at the moment?
Well, listen, it's hot where I live. Clearly, I have a little bit of a Hawaiian t-shirt going on, and I've realized that I like a little bit of vodka and lemon. It's hot right now. It's sunny. It's beautiful. I'd be wearing a hat if I was outside. So I got an outside drink, guys, vodka and lemon. What about you?
Well, being that if I drink while doing an interview, I will get sloshy and be like, I love you guys. Here's my password to all my social media. It's like, yeah. So I am drinking water, but what's spicing it up is my, I didn't know that we were doing a drinking thing. I brought my Grimlock glass to show status and professionalism.
There you go. There you go. Well, for me, I'm going a bit old school. I'm going, actually, it's blurring. Guinness in a bottle. Not as good as on tap, but, I'll have to do for today.
Pour that in a glass?
Yeah.
I think you're drinking the bottle. I was like, no, you gotta go. You gotta go. Over, guys.
I'm not a savage, guys. You were saying, Derek.
I was going to ask Lance for the to be a little more detailed, without product placement intended. But what kind of vodka are you enjoying?
Tito's.
Pretty good.
All right. Well played, my friend. Well played.
All right, gentlemen. Well, cheers to all of you.
Hello, my friend! Hey!
And cheers to everybody watching and listening. Not canceling us. I truly appreciate it.
Career flush and over.
Exactamundo. So, Derek, to go back to Jason, from what I heard, you were a huge Friday the 13th fan to begin with, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I grew up loving Friday the 13th. Before, I would say I'm a fan representing the fans, but before I was hired or got into acting in general, Friday the 13th was my favorite horror franchise, and Jason was my favorite horror character, and he gave me so many nightmares as a child.
That's amazing. And how'd you go? How did it come about? Was there a casting notice and you went to it, or did a casting agent come to you, or did you sneak in? How'd that come about?
There's a long version and there's a short version. The short version is two of us went in to audition with the casting director for the role. What I had heard afterwards, after I was hired, was I was told that when they were trying to find who the next Jason would be, they asked a bunch of different industry professionals in different circles because they were saying they were really stepping on the point going, we want a professional actor, but also someone who can actually, survive and do the physical or the physicality of the character. And so blown away because I heard that my name was would start to pop up in different areas, and so they kept hearing my name over and over, and so they called me in for a meeting, and man, blown away still to this day that I got it.
That's awesome. How many, if I may ask, callbacks did you have to do?
Zero. Yeah, we it was wild because we went in for I went in for the meeting, and the casting director was just, look, I don't know how to audition you. In my opinion, let's start with that. Your opinion, like why do you think we need a professional actor, and why, tell us why you think that. And so I started going into like a Greek mask theory, where the mask is one essence, the actor's second essence coming together as a third essence. I started talking about with characters. A lot of times when you're wearing a mask character, the common misconception is like, oh, you're a big guy wearing a mask. You're like, I'm a body actor. I'm going to show you I'm mad with my body. And I was like, that's not, we all approach things differently. And that's, to me, that's indicating that's bad acting. So you start from inner to outer, where you work, that you trust, even if you have a dialogue or not, language is only 10% of communication.
Yeah.
So when you're breaking the script down, you break it down as if you had dialogue and figure out your character arc through the series. And as long as you're committed sincerely to whatever's going on in the scene, you have to trust that energy transfers through the mask and it's captured on camera.
Through the eyes.
So yeah, absolutely. Well, just the whole, it's a weird, like, I know that sounds very new age or energy feeling, but there's a thing like if you guys are standing in a room, like not facing me, and I walked in, you could feel that someone walked into the room.
Yeah.
So as long as that intention's there, it comes out no matter what. So the mask on or off, I'm doing the same exact thing. So after I went on this whole rant like I just did now, and they were like, Lisa Fields, the cast director, was like, look, you might be overqualified for this. I go, no, I'm a giant nerd in 11 cents. Like, please. I started laughing. And later on that night, I got the phone call, and I got the role.
I think that's awesome that you actually approach the role like a real role, because of course I've read some stuff, some of the things you did to prep up for the role, childhood development,
Yes.
abandonment issues or whatnot. Like you went really deep
Mm-hmm.
for a role that I'm sure a lot of people have, it's just a guy with a hockey mask and that's it. But I really respect the fact that you went that deep, and in my opinion, it shows. Yeah.
It's the building on what's come before you, because without the gentleman before us, as a fan, like everyone's kind of makes their own mark, and being that Jason is like an iconic character, just similar to like the classic Universal monsters, like Dracula or Frankenstein. It's such an iconic character that there's going to be a myriad of guys playing this role, and it's always going to change. So in my opinion is that you are representing the fans, and we all know the details. So anytime you do a reboot or an iconic character, it's a hard balance, because you have to be respectful for the past generation, for everyone that loves it and made it what it is, but also respect a whole new generation and take a risk, because you have to have that balance where you, hopefully the new generation who's never heard of the character, this is their introduction and their first time being introduced to it. So they get excited. With the hope is that they get excited, and being as fans from the older material, that they like it so much, and they go back and revisit that and go, oh, and they understand that every story is valid, and you should always like who you like, or whatever brought you into that series or that IP that you love, that it's never wrong and it's never a threat to what you've loved before. Yeah. So again, it's just taking that. I mean, even if you're playing like a normal, as an actor, you're playing an officer, or you're playing a specific profession. If you don't learn the ins and outs of it, like if you're like holding a gun improperly, or if it's someone's a doctor and they're not putting the medical instruments in the right order, someone is going to be a medical expert and watch that and go, nope, and that's going to pull them out of the story. So it's your duty to be respectful and do your work. And in my opinion, because some people, this is, we all like things, we're all fans of something. So there's a huge group that's a fan of this, and you have to make sure that their needs are taken care of.
I was going to say, the thing I like so much about this iteration of Jason, and I kind of agree with you on what you're saying about like eras. I always think of Bond. Like everybody has their Bond they grew up with, like what their Bond is. But like, if that's the only Bond you like, then you're doing it wrong. Like my dad loves Connery, but me and him went to go see Brosnan in the 90s. And me and him went to go see Craig in the 2000s, and he loves all of them. And so your iteration was so visceral and so kind of unnerving. I always think I could probably outrun some Jasons, even if he will eventually catch me. What scared me about yours is I couldn't get 4 feet out the damn door. You know? Like I wouldn't even have the time to think I got away before I was murdered. And I think it was cool is that, you know, there was the rule in the Hodder era that Jason couldn't run. And I actually really enjoyed that your Jason was this sort of nimble, which I'm not sure if is even the correct word, but just this agile little
Very
guy.
agile, yeah.
Is that something that you and Marcus Nispel discussed, that like how much of a boundary was put on you of what you couldn't do, or were you given carte blanche in terms of who's your Jason?
It was really nice because going back to the beginning of process of creating the character, Mark Swift and Damian Shannon, the writers, have a lot of credit for this version of Jason, because they're like, before, what they explained to me is that Jason was more of an entity or an essence, or rather than just a character. And this time they wanted to make him an actual character. Yeah. And that's what they're saying in the script. They're going, oh, we want someone who can act and you know, bring it more than it, you know, it kind of previously was. I mean, by me saying that, it's no disrespect to anybody else. Like, I'm just passing along. Like, like I said, I'm not God's gift or anything. I'm just trying to do my own thing. But there's a couple of us on the show that were like big Friday the 13th fans, and you know, there are different points we'd make out going, oh, this happened in part so and so, or hey, if we do this, it's a minor reference to this, you know, the wheelchair in part 2 or whatever. And they started to trust us. And there are certain times, like when I was talking about the character, like there's a scene where Marcus was having me come in and they had the machete over my head. And I was like, I always do my accents nowhere near his accent. I don't know why I do this stuff. I was like, oh, Derek, are you coming here? Your arm is here. I want you to come down here.
That's pretty good, actually.
And I'm like, well, actually, Marcus, I go, what I'm working with is I go, what's going to bring us in? I go, it's very superficial that way. I go, it has to be like an emotional release for the character. And I tried to explain to fans, and I was like, to him at the time, I go, my kind of take on it, it's almost like a PTSD where Jason is you know, rejected from society as a child, and his mother is his only source of love. And I go, so sorry, I get excited. I start talking faster and faster.
No.
So and then there was just like, Derek, relax, slow it down.
I'm a Yankee. I talk fast, buddy. Keep going. It's good.
But so that's his only relationship to love. And being that he saw his mother get murdered in front of him at such a young age, that emotional impact of that love being taken away, even though she's batshit crazy. So he has this thing where like, oh, I'm different. I want to, you know, be left alone in society. And so the town has a deal where they leave him alone, he leaves them alone. But when these kids encroach in his area, it's almost like I wanted to play it like a PTSD, where right now, these are the persons, oh, he's confused, that took the love of my life, the only source of love. So imagine, like, we all as human beings have that emotional keyboard where, like, if you have your children or an infant or a dog, a puppy with you, and someone kicks them in the face, you have that emotional release. Like, I'm going to rip and destroy everything that you are, because that's like that love and protection. You're threatening that love, and to release that energy on cameras. I go, so anytime the attacks, so everything has to have an aggression where it's like not just a stabbing, it has to make like an emotional, like prison shanking. Like there's emotion behind it to release that. And he's like, okay, Derek, okay, like you do your thing, like you do, because he would make fun of me. If you know the trailer moment where Jason's running towards Amanda Rigetti and has the machete above his hand and coming down, that aggression. He's like, Derek, you're doing this little thing with your hand where like you're relaxing and then tightening. I go, yeah. I go, it's a fulcrum technique from fighting. I go, when you're running, I go, rather than just using your arm, that's just your strength in your arm. I go, this way it's your whole body, because it's relaxed. And the last second you tighten and it gets a whip. So it comes down. And he's like, okay, just, you do it. I got this end, you got that end. I'm like, okay, cool.
That's
so again, it got a little too much
guy knows
into
his shit. I'll just step back, let him do his magic, because you know.
Well, it's even to the point, like, it's so ridiculous. Like, this is how dumb Derek is. The one scene where Jason is doing the bow and arrow.
Yeah.
And I'm for the water skiing scene, and I go, hey, real quick question, Marcus. I go, my left eye is cataract over, so he's technically blind out of the eye. I go, if I'm looking, you want me to shoot this way, like this? I go, it's not going to work out. I have to switch hands, or my right eye was what it was. And I go, so I'll have to switch hands. And I go, I go, from fighting, I can fight either side. I can switch way. I go, if you want me to. Are you left-handed? I go, no, but I can be left-handed the entire film if you want. And he's like, no, Derek, you're overthinking this. Like no one's going to notice that he can't see it. A perception. Just shoot the arrow. I'm like, okay, cool, deal.
That's awesome.
Well, I was going to say, I really do appreciate though that this movie did its homework. You know, like it was fun. It was trashy. You were mentioning the machete part, and I would say, and something I think we'll get into later, obviously, but one of my favorite parts is that you murder everybody in the beginning, and it almost sets up like a different movie. And it ends right as you're about to throw the machete, and it's like Friday the 13th. And I remember clapping. I took my little brother to see it because it was his first Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah, that fake opening was such a brilliant idea on Swift and Shannon's part, man. Like when I first read the script, I mean, at the time, I didn't care if it was like a time traveling cyborg Jason T-Rexes. I'm like, I'm on board. But then reading how they grounded everything with the character and went, oh, he's human, and they're saying you can always go supernatural later on. So they wanted to really ground everything. Even the kills, they purposely grounded the kills because we were supposed to go immediately into like a part 2. And knowing that they could expand on the kills with the time and then, to build from the originals. Yeah. But unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to do that. Swift and Shannon did write a sequel, which was I got to read on the nerdy side of me going, this is so awesome. Like, why aren't we shooting this? This is great. But we'll see in the future.
Can you tell me, hold on, I got to ask about this though.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, because you were obviously you were murdered at the end of the first one by the machine, then you came back out of the water. Mm-hmm. So does the sequel continue from that point? Is this like a kind of like a Hatchet where like we follow that, or is there a time jump?
From what I'll pass along so I don't get in trouble in case they do it, from what Swift and Shannon publicly posted on social media, they were saying that it started off where it kind of wiped the slate, where there were taking place in the snow, because the fans at the time, that's all they wanted to see, that contrast of red blood in the snow. And there were references that led off to what had happened previously, little winks, because the way that our Friday ended was again it's kind of a homage of the 1, 2, and 3, a little bit of 4 together from what we did. So the ending sequence of the Friday for 2009 is an homage to the original Friday, going like, if you notice, it's a little bit, like, I think it's a little different film stock, where it's like, oh, is this supposed to be a dream sequence? Is it not a dream sequence? We don't know for sure. And that's what they kind of wanted, where it's like, it had that debate if it was real or not real. And so it set you up for coming back, going like, where are we starting from?
As a fan, what's your favorite one?
Oh, part 4.
Nice.
With Ted White is my favorite. I think it has a lot to do psychologically, where as a kid, I grew up, I still have now, I have a disorder called alopecia. So my hair falls out. But now as an adult, I've been able to grow like facial hair, which is weird.
Yeah, I've seen you with a stash. But
I don't, anywhere else, I don't really grow hair at all. But at the time, it was crazy. The scene where young Corey Feldman was at the top of the stairs and he shaved his head to look like Jason. I had little tufts of hair because all the other hair had fallen out, and that's kind of what my hair looked like at the time. And I remember being like, I always thought I was like different. And I'm like, oh wait, I'm like a little version of Jason. I'm like, oh. And it was such a weird thing, like for myself personally, because the whole journey back in my hometown of being an actor, it's what I was like, oh, he's the different guy. He looks different. And, I had this really big insecurity about being different. But once I moved to Los Angeles, because I was different, what I thought was my biggest, detriment became my biggest positivity. My words are all screwed around. And I find my biggest negative was my biggest positive. And I started working like crazy and went, wait, this is how I am. And I really kind of sunk into it. And now I'm just like, man, like any of us, like we all have insecurities where like we feel we're too tall or too short or too wide or too thin, like whatever it is, like my acting coach helped me at one point. He goes like, we all feel different. Your job is to let people know that it's going to be okay. So I'm like, oh, like we're all different. So like, however you feel negative, I go, it's okay. Own what you are, because it makes you different. Like, why do you want to be boring and be like everybody else? Like that makes you unique. Like we all have our, with the superheroes now, we have our pros and cons. Like yes, Matt Murdock can't see, but he has radar sense. He could be Daredevil. So it really helped me as a child and as an adult to kind of understand that.
Your story is one of, I guess, fate or destiny, or sometimes, being that you grew up, Friday the 13th fan, as a child, I'm assuming, or a young man, kind of related to the character because of, the condition that you had. And then you wind up playing him. Yeah. That's kismet, that's meant to be, that's fate. So it's a great story, man.
Oh, thank you. Again, man, my entire career in Hollywood, like I get every day, I'm like, thank you, beyond thankful, because it could end at any time. And I keep getting handed like, hey, they want to meet with you about this iconic character. Hey, you want to try this? Like, we know how you're like a modern Boris Karloff. You have your very scary face, but you can change your body. And this, I'm like, those are your words, not mine. I'm so like, how did I get here? I feel like I'm a kid who's jumped into his TV, where I'm like older now, going like, I still feel like the kid, and I'm blown away that I'm even here in the first place.
I'd like to end off with a couple of rapid fire questions. That's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, your favorite kill in Friday the 13th?
The one
2009. You're Friday the 13th. Your favorite?
Oh, no, 2009. Okay, so
yeah.
Serious? Yeah, I was going to go hotter sleeping bag against the nope. And the serious, but for mine, it would be the Aaron Yu slow Saving Private Ryan screwdriver kill. Aaron was he actually had surgery right before then, and he was still open. He had just freshly got sewn clothes, and like he had me manhandle him and throw him around. I was so worried that he was going to reopen, his staples and just like have a real Friday the 13th open guts spilling out moment. But he is a trooper for all of that.
Question 2: if you're in charge, because we talk about this a lot, next Friday the 13th movie, where's Jason going to be? What's happening? What's the next step? If you had to choose.
Man, I really honestly don't know, because there's so many good choices. And no matter what I say with fandom now, anytime I also, when I create something, I expect 50% of people to like it and 50% of people to hate it, because everything's subjective. And if I say anything now, it's like, stupid, burn him. I don't want fire bombs at my house. Derek wants this. I really, just as long as we have a Jason movie, I am on board.
2009, right? You have the two versions of how you get your mask. You have the beheading and you have the throat slits. So you have which one do you prefer?
One didn't make sense. I think it's my fault that we switched the mask getting, because at one point it's a lengthier thing. I don't even have time for
go for it. There's no rush. You got all day.
I like the rapid fire questions. Like, here comes the question train. I'm like, hold up, let me put the brakes on it. No, one of the original things that I brought up when we were doing the original, which is the behind the scenes version of how Jason gets the hockey mask in 09.
Kerosene when you're walking down,
Yeah, when he's coming down, because what had originally happened, the way the camera was set up, and I go, it doesn't make sense at all, because if he has a deal with the town about them leaving him alone, and them leaving him alone and him leaving them alone, why is he killing this guy for no reason? That the other guy has to be aggressive first for him to do this. And I go, because it makes no sense. The kids, it makes sense because they're encroaching this area. I go, this is just a random kill for someone in the town. I go, that's not the agreement. And I go, but if he got trapped, and felt trapped kind of like a wild animal, and he took that person's, movement as a hostile movement, then it's okay. And they're like, they had the whole like, they had the conversation like, they switched the scene around, and we shot that scene where coming down with the kerosene. And if you notice, like, he's the one that like has the motion forward first. And same thing later on when we did the reshoots, which I'll tell you more about in a second. When we're doing the reshoots, when he discovers on the mannequin that kill, I go, as he turns around, rather than Jason just killing, I go, he has to come towards me first, like spin as a defensive, like, oh shit, towards me. And then that way it gives me justification, like, oh, he's being aggressive, I can kill him. But the one thing that was in the script that wasn't, didn't make the final cut, which I always try to share with fans, like things like they don't know, or something that like something new in an interview. What was supposed to happen after he slashes the character to get the mask, he grabs him and he runs him towards the wall and launches him out the second story of the barn. And then there's supposed to be a wide, far away cut of the barn and it's like a silhouette of night and the crickets, and you just see the barn, and you just see someone fly through the side of a wall, like, and make that sound of silence, just falling into the forest and like crumbling. And I'm like, but they thought, I don't know why they didn't put that on, or it might have been too much, but we just went with the beheading there instead, or the cut. So sorry, rapid fire questions.
No, it's all right, man.
Still rolling.
Yeah,
Exactly. Nothing wrong with that.
but it's not necessarily a question, but I think it's something I want to tell you. I am from Chicago. I lived in the 3 flat for many years. And so what I would do every October is I would stick this in my window right there. Yeah. And I'd put it in my window, and my office was on the side of the street where the window was. And so you couldn't see it necessarily by walking your dog, but you would get a peripheral, somebody looking down at you. And so I'd be in my office all of October, and I hear like son of a bitch, what the fuck? And I hear people getting upset because like they thought some guy was sitting there staring at them. And so I never forget, I would like, just my wife would come in, she'd laugh, I'd laugh. We'd just fuck with people. They would do nothing but just put you out in the window, and at night it's just some guy, some 6-foot guy. And we had tall Chicago windows. So it's like 11 feet. So it's your entire damn body stood up in the window. It was great. I don't know. I just want to bring it up because I never thought I'd get to say this. So I appreciate it.
That is phenomenal. I have to tell you, Lance, it's such a cool thing to also with these being a part of these iconic characters, because what you just did now is one of the sweet payoffs. Is like everyone has a story where I used to watch Friday with my dad, or I had to have a special moment, or there's a special like you told a story with having the Jason cutout and scaring people. We all have that, and that joy that the three of us just had, like laughing and smiling, going, "Oh man, that's the coolest thing in the world." That is, it sparks that conversation. It creates that positive energy and reverberates out. I got to tell you, brother, I love that you shared that with me, because that's it's such a bonus perk to all of us. It made my day. Thank you.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for helping me fuck with a bunch of Chicagoans.
Derek, I haven't seen you, I think, since 2011 or 12, I think it was.
Yeah.
And you're in one of my favorite pictures. There's a picture, we were at a bar, I don't know if you remember this. Mm-hmm. It was yourself, me. I always had a hard time with his name. Neil Hoff, who played Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw 3, and Nick Principe, who played Chrome Skull in Laid to Rest. And all you guys are lifting me up. And I'm like being lifted up by 3 iconic, killers. It's always been one of my favorite pictures, which I will share with you guys. When I put the finger down, it will pop up on screen.
Oh, please.
There it was. So man, it's one of my favorite pictures, straight up.
Oh, that makes me so happy. Like, yeah, that's 3 big dudes together. That's one thing that is super fun about doing the horror conventions, to do the autograph signs in between the TV and film jobs, is being a horror nerd like myself. I get to meet some of the older actors that I'm a fan of. And then I get oh, wait, we're friends now? And you want to go to dinner and tell me what really happened on the movie that you can't tell the general public? And I'm like, how did I get here? This is amazing. So I completely understand that. Like, oh, this is so fun, because if I'm not on like the horror science, if I'm not on this side of the table, I'm on the other side wandering around going, what did you make out of stained glass? Oh wait, you do what with your art? Like, we're all just artists in different mediums, and it's wonderful. Wonderful.
So I guess let's jump into the movie. I always had a kind of like a weird relationship with that movie, in the sense that I never loved it. I always thought it was all right. But on this watch, because it had been a while since I watched it, I finally really pinpointed what it is I like and what it is I don't like. Why it hasn't like been jacked up to a higher rating in my feeble brain in terms of the franchise. I will say it held up way better than I thought it would. Watching it today, I always had trouble with the pacing at first. I always thought the pacing was clunky, but I didn't feel it this time. I used to hate the like it's like the faux opening, really, like the first like 25 minutes. I thought it was weird. If they're spending all this fucking time with these people, then they all get whacked, and then boom, we start the movie all over again. And maybe, now I'm able to say I enjoy it. It's nice. It's a cool idea. But back then I did not. So yeah, it went down smoother than a hooker on prom night on this run, I must say.
What do we get for $10? Everything you want.
Fair enough, man. I mean,
hey, not everybody has a date, bro. You know?
I support, I support anybody trying to make a living. That's for damn sure. So I'll be honest. This is one I've always really enjoyed. I feel I've always kind of fought people on this. So here's my take on this. I remember I didn't love when I heard it was being announced. This was, I think, towards the end of my early in the remake boom. I was really upset. I got real grumpy. I was like this. I was always really mad. And then by this point, I was like, I don't really care anymore. And by now, I couldn't give a shit. Oh, we're making Jaws, whatever. I'm so desensitized to it all. But then I remember hearing like it was going to be a mix, like the first 3 or 4. It was going to be brutal. So I went in with an open mind, even though I'm not going to lie to you. When I showed up to the theater, I kind of was walking in expecting to hate it. I remember I took a little brother because I wanted him to see his first Jason in theaters. And sadly, it was his last because they never made another one. And I'll never forget the opening scene, which is actually what you didn't like is actually what sold me on the entire thing when the girl's burning alive in the
sleeping bag.
The sleeping bag. The guy has his foot gnawed with a bear trap, screaming, and then Jason comes up and basically goes axe the girl in the face. I remember being like, "Oh, we're not fucking around. Like we're doing this." And not to mention the girl's like taking off her top, and she's like, they're like teasing. I was like, okay, so this isn't. We're not washing this away. We're not making this cute or sweet. We're not deconstructing or making it progressive. It's like, no, this is basically a trashy movie that was made in 2009. And I gotta be honest, I had a great time. Like, I don't love Human Jason. I never have. I accept it. I mean, to me, it's like, okay, they explain a lot, which they didn't need to. It's stuff that I could take or leave, but in this context, fine, whatever. They did their homework, which is there was nudity, there was violence, and the MPAA didn't completely obliterate it. And so, like, to me, I mean, I think there's faults with it, but at the same time, all these movies are like the same. You said something that I always agreed with, which is these flicks are meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
So like, I don't hold them to a standard like I would a Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, I don't care about story or characters. I still rooted for Jason, even though they really tried to make him evil. I was still like, I dug it, man. I dug it. And after rewatching it a couple of times, like, I was like, it's still fun. In fact, all this did was make me now nervous for the new one if it ever comes out. Because I really wonder if we could still get this level of trashy yet sheen, like a nice polished piece of trash.
Yeah, and a polished piece of trash that, even though the movie wasn't set in the 80s or the 90s, it kind of felt that it was like there wasn't any agendas force-fed, in the movie. It was in 2009, but it could have been in the 90s or in the 80s. You had your gratuitous nudity, from both male and female, by the way. But, I paid attention more to females, I'm not going to lie. So gratuitous, and I actually think this movie is the horniest of the Friday 13 movies, because the scene in the opening, the girl with the fake boobies.
She's like teasing the guy.
Yeah. And then the Juliana Gill epic sex scene. Yeah, that scene. Damn, that's like almost like borderline softcore. So it's pretty freaking out there, man. So I respected the movie that in 2009 they still went for it. Like part 5 is also really horny movie.
Yeah, 5 is probably the other one besides this, but you're right. They went farther than I remember, because I remember the first time I was like, I remember her like being so aggressive, and then there's like 6 other nude scenes. I was like, good for these people. Like, they really leaned into that sort of aspect, which always made the older ones fun. Because it's like a little 12-year-old kid, But that's what those movies are about, Yes.
It's, a Friday 13 movie without gratuitous nudity and without without overt gore then what's the point? I'm not watching this for the fucking story, man. I'm watching to have a good time. I don't eat a Big Mac because I'm in the mood for filet mignon. I want a fucking Big Mac. The Friday 13 franchise pretty much is like my favorite cinematic Big Mac. I just love you know what you're going to get. You know what you're going to get, which actually brings me to my biggest letdown of the 2009 remake. Probably the main reason why the movie doesn't stick with me so as much as the other ones. The kills are lame. The kills are fucking lame, dude.
I don't agree. I don't
other than him running there, with the machete, which is a nice shot. And he said, name me a fucking kill from that movie. Name me one.
Let me get the name, because I'm bad at names here. Chelsea, when she's like in the dock and he stabs her through the dock and pulls her up.
Takes her up.
Yeah. I mean, that was a cool thing. Runs her over with a boat. Okay, what about is it Breck?
But you got fucking notes, man. That's not fair.
Well, that's what I was just. I'm not supposed to be prepared. Hey, man.
No, man. Just top of your right now, top of my head. Ask me part 4, part 5. I'll fucking part 2. I'll fucking spit them out. But this one,
I'm not saying
those are not memorable, man.
The cop where he jumps down, sticks him through the keyhole, and it flips around. That's a cool scene. I mean, how about this? I'm not going to fight you. Say it's the most unique, but after just watching the original, I'll take this any day. At least it's like has some fun gore and some nudity. I mean, you're right though, because it's a lot of like throat slit, stab. But they show it and it's gory. Like, so I'm okay with it. I don't know. I'm not as picky, I guess.
I didn't think the kills stood out.
I'll have this. Let's meet in the middle here. I think the way they killed Jason was probably my least favorite ever. I thought that was the lamest ending of him. They could have done. After talking to Derek, he seemed like they specifically wanted to do it so that they could bring him back as the supernatural entity in the second. That's why he wasn't decapitated or thrown that little like wood chipper thing.
Although it is a bit of a wink to part 3. He dies with being hung and then axe in the head.
Yeah. But I feel like that works just because that was so in the 80s. I almost thought they needed more of an aggressive kill, but he was human, even though he's not. I mean, he's fucking superhuman the entire movie. It's the Halloween 2007 thing where it's like, well, he's human. It's like, but he's not.
Yeah.
He's not. If you're breaking through like walls and shit, like you're not, but whatever. And can we talk about Mears' Jason? It was the opposite of Hodder's. He did something that like even I, when I was younger, was against, which is like Jason running, even though I should admit right now, I used to think that I was an idiot because he runs in 2, 3, and 4 and nobody ever cared. I think it was just Hodder's thing, but
because Hodder made such an impression with the character. He really we told Derek, he made it his own, just like Derek in this particular film made it his own as well. I call him Ninja Jason, Mears' version. It's Ninja Jason. He's agile.
You can't get 2 feet without him getting you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Where Otter was more like get off my lawn, Jason. He's just pissed, heaving, standing there. And teleporting left and right like nobody's fucking business. So, but yeah, I guess Hodder made such a stamp as Jason. I mean, I'm sure you remember he would go to, I think it was on Arsenio actually in costume. So he kind of took ownership of the character, and until he got fucked over on Freddy versus Jason. But that's another show, I guess. Yeah. So to come back to 2009. So for me, the kills weren't all that. They didn't use the classic Friday 13 score nearly enough or hardly enough. I think they just used it at the end, really. So that was lacking for me. And the last thing that really popped at me, which is stupid, but I'll point it out, is this area of Camp Crystal Lake or whatever the fuck, a lot of people go missing. So when there's a house and they call the cops, it should be more than one dude showing up. No, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just kind of like not even a partner or a canine, like a dog,
I assume, and this is just me making excuses. They try to make this as rural as they could be. Like when they go in the beginning to get the gas and stuff. So maybe they're trying to make it like a small town, even though it's technically like in Jersey, right? So how small can it be? My big thing is I don't care how much that girl looks like his mom. Jason doesn't take hostages. I never like that. She should have been on a spike. I get it. I get why, because it serves as a story. And at this point, like they're doing something new and I could pick it on all the little things, but I could go back and do the same. So I was like, I'll accept it, but I didn't love that. After that one cop was killed, they should have descended with the FBI, Well,
that one cop should have showed up with a partner or even 2 police cars, like, 4 cops. I don't know, man, this fucking area, people are going missing left and right. Jason Voorhees, everybody knows about this shit. I thought it was weird, like a dumb move to serve the plot. That's it, man. I mean, I love spotting the references. I mean, like you said before, the guy looking for his sister, that's from part 4. We get Jason with the pillowcase, obviously from part 2. So it almost acts a bit as a greatest hits.
Yeah, which is smart way to go about it, actually. The Baghead Jason looked cool. I like the style. Yeah, I like the mask a lot in this. The masks change in every movie, and I don't love them all equally. This though had this was a good looking mask.
Yeah, Yeah.
Yellow tanned rundown. We're talking earlier with Derek though. I was watching the special features because I own, well, they're somewhere. I own a couple copies, and though it makes less sense in the movie, the original cut, he does cut the guy's head off, and then you have the head with the mask on that he takes off, puts on. I thought that was a cool little thing that, though, that makes less sense in the story, is a better visual. But seeing Jason put on the mask for the first time, that was like pretty cool.
Yeah, that was iconic. Yeah,
you never saw that in the third. Just kind of shows up with it. Something I've gone back and forth. I think I'm more okay with it now, just because I'm less. There's some things I just let go. I had probably more of a chip on my shoulder when I was in my 20s, but I didn't love it at first when he set traps. I was like, Jason doesn't set traps. Jason just fucking does it. But this is a human Jason. This is like, what if the kid from Jungle Book killed people, So he's like setting up traps. He has like a system let the people let himself know when people are walking around. He has this.
It's very Leatherface.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah, it leans a lot. Having a hostage. A victim, the tunnels, the traps, the lights. I remember when I initially saw it, that was one thing that popped. It was like, it feels more Leatherface because it's so grounded in quote unquote reality than it does Jason. From what we knew of Jason, now I'm not talking part, 1, 2, 3, 4, but after those, we were conditioned to zombie Jason, basically.
Yes.
So now we went back to real, quote unquote, again. If I say quote unquote one more time, you'll have to punch me through the screen, quote unquote.
But well, he's real in this world. I mean, He's supernatural because he's strong. But yeah, I mean, fair enough. I look at it like this is Jason 2 with a hockey mask, only what it would look like if done in 2009. That's what this is. This is Jason 2,
So I think it plays well better today for me. I'll speak for myself, because before 2009, filmmaking was different. We were kind of blessed with really good movies. So when I saw it back then, I was kind of like, it's all right. But since 2009, so like now, and obviously I'm a man of my generation. I'm not fucking 18 and everything's about fucking Marvel. I give a fuck about Marvel, but for me, filmmaking is much less interesting now. What Hollywood is giving us is much less interesting. So that makes a movie from 2009 even more compelling. I get to appreciate it more today. I'm just used to watching a lot of crap right now,
Yeah, well, we're on the same page because I told you earlier, I was surprised while watching this that my thought was, if this series comes back, I almost don't think we would get this. Just in terms of, any little issue I have. And they're little, they really are. They're just nitpicks depending on my mood. But just let's take like I said, the trashiness of the series, which is gore, nudity, and the thin plot. Like they really over delivered in my mind, whether we could agree about the kills or not. Like they didn't shy away from anything. Yeah. And my first thought was that they absolutely would shy away from something now. Probably the nudity, more than likely, because I've seen some good gore in the upcoming years. But the gore here also was almost all practical. And that's another thing. After watching the new Predator movie, which I liked, but all CGI gore. So something like this, I'm like, oh man, like there was a little heart and soul in it. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I've always liked it personally. You were right though. We've been conditioned, and I'll admit this right away. Kane Hodder has always been my Jason. I like others, so I've never been like all or none. Like I enjoy all of them, but Kane's my favorite. And so my issues with this were basically that it's just the opposite. But now I could appreciate it. It's like, okay, yeah, he's human and he's fast and he sets traps. Like, cool. Then why not? Yeah, have a good time. He is a lot more threatening. And, like I said earlier, even with Hodder's Jason, like he would get me, but I would get away before he showed up like behind the door to kill me. Yeah. Mears Jason, I wouldn't get 3 feet without him already like snapping my neck. And I like it. Flaws aside, it gave me exactly what it wanted. And honestly, I really wish we got another one before they bowed out. I would like to see Derek's Jason undead. What's his zombie Jason like? That'd be cool, rotting flesh and still running, but it was not meant to be, I guess. And who knows by the time we get it, what's going to happen.
Yeah. And I'll be very interested to see how a Friday the 13th movie, which is basically an exploitation film, really.
Absolutely.
Sex and death. That's it. How they're going to pull that off in this day and age of overt political correctness. I'll be really interested to see how they spin it. I know it's a
We'll
delicate
see.
topic, and we try not to talk about shit.
No, yeah, because
I'm still fucking interested to see how they spin that. How you're gonna gratuitously, show breasts and not have groups. Oh my god, I'm offended that objectified.
They wouldn't though. It would just be a sexless movie. That's how they
no, but then show everything. Show dick, show ass, show breasts. I don't give a fuck. I believe in equal opportunities for all, but exploitation's exploitation. Run with it or don't fucking waste my time. I don't watch Friday 13 because it remains of the fucking day, Yeah,
I mean, listen, I'm on the same page. It's a meat and potatoes movie. It's comfort food. I like it trashy. I don't want it cleaned up, but we'll see. I mean, it could be many years before we even get a movie. So who knows? Maybe things will swing in another direction, or maybe people cool off.
Man, I'm kind of tired of people spitting out. So look, at the end of the day, Friday 13, a remake, played better today than it did when it first came out. And for me, it was actually a pleasure to revisit it. And, it does have edge. It's beautifully shot. It has suspense. It's, raunchy. Friday 13 movies are a bit like Porky's movies. Remember those Porky's movies?
I mean, it's been a long time. I think I remember the shower scene. I don't really remember anything.
Of course
else.
You do. That's why we watch Porky's movies.
Well, I was like,
but with a killer in it. With a killer.
Yeah.
They're
product of its time.
Yeah, part of its time. That's what I liked about the remake, although it was 2009, and a lot has changed in our society since 2009. That's for fucking sure. 12 years, my God.
I mean, you only get 8 decades in your life, so that's
So, but at least, the remake still kept to those key ingredients that makes up Friday the 13th. And, whether the next one, if we ever get it, it remains to be seen if it could be done in a Demolition Man-like society that we live in now,
John's man, you are flying. John's man, you are John's man.